I have something really important to tell you and every other woman out there.
Okay.
Stop making yourselves wrong. The instinct to make yourself wrong is so great. We just need to overcome the financial shame.
Welcome to the Blueprint Breakers podcast. What is a blueprint breaker? If you live your life outside the typical traditional lifestyle blueprint, you are a blueprint breaker. We are here to start a conversation, to assemble resources, and to build a community. This podcast is for empowered women in midlife and beyond who are preparing for a powerful next era of life. My name is Amy A. Palmer. I am your host and facilitator for our conversations. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. To stay connected, up to date, and to receive all of our free resources and gifts along the way, join us at community.blueprintbreakers.com. Today, I sit down with Sherry Finkel Murphy, a certified financial planner with a passion for helping women navigate their financial futures. Sherry shares her inspiring journey of career reinvention, and she provides valuable insights into financial planning for women, especially as we enter our 50s and beyond. Most importantly, she talks about maintaining a positive mindset, really focusing on health, really focusing on planning to be flexible in our careers and our lifestyles. She also debunks some common financial myths and offers some practical advice on how to avoid making costly mistakes. Enjoy my conversation with Sherry today.
Hello, Sherry. Welcome to Blueprint Breakers. So happy to see you today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I need this conversation. So I'm glad we're talking today, all things planning and looking ahead to the future and financial and all the things. I will admit it's not my favorite thing to talk about, which is exactly why I want to talk about it. So as we get started, I would love to hear a little bit from you as far as what has led you down this path of helping women in this manner.
I think that my story is one of the life comes at you fast variety.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a career reinventionist from the get-go.
Yes.
I
Good.
did fund a mid-career break in my 40s. I did change paths and certify as a certified financial planner in my early 50s, which was exciting because I student well, and getting back to school, or in this case, credentialing, was
Mm-hmm.
exciting to me. It was good to know that my brain still worked. But working with the hand that life has dealt, whether that was a failing marriage or a failing parent or the normal things that
Mm.
happen, rolling with the punches. And it's so important that not what happens to us, but how we react to it. And we can choose to be a hot mess, high drama. I am not that person. I am an, okay, how am I going to react to this? And had my share of punches thrown at me, but okay. So the world of Madrina Mali, or my practice in financial planning, was always about healing me by making sure that I was a good mentor to other women in the cohort. And I think that's the biggest gift that I can give, because there are not many women certified financial planners who are of a certain agency, I should say.
Yes.
We are doing a really good job of minting plenty of new ones, and it's very important. But there's a tremendous shortage, and most of the CFP women are younger.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome to see. And it's definitely demographic that needs the help and needs the guidance.
Yes.
And I'll tell you that as part of the Blueprint Breakers, we are, I love how you said a certain agency, but a lot of us are single. And I've definitely noticed that a lot of my peers, like myself, that are solo and have been for quite some time, do not feel fully ready and fully satisfied with what they've done thus far. So I would like to talk about a little bit of that today. At first, by addressing that mindset of feeling like, oh my God, is it too late? what do we do when it occurs to us that, oh my God, what have we been doing?
So I have strong feelings about this. And
Okay.
that is that if you approach your second 50 years as a deteriorating asset, I'm a hot mess, I've done everything wrong, blah, 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 I'll never lose 10 pounds again, I'll never get anything, all of that, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the first thing that I would want to tell the Gen X, Boom X cohort is you have a lot more runway than you think. We have in 1 century increased our lives by 30 years. And people don't realize what that means, that if you're 50 years old, you have a life, assuming you use healthcare, et cetera, you have a life expectancy of 30 plus years. And if you remain healthy to 65, you add 5 on top of that. So think 35 years, what are you going to do with it? You should at least invest in enough technology to work with your bank and your healthcare provider and your grandchildren, future grandchildren. You should absolutely invest in your health always. And that means fixing some numbers and preferably not letting some numbers go downhill, because there's nothing worse than seeing your savings eaten up by out-of-pocket healthcare costs. And there is absolutely time to right the financial ship. And one does that in 2 ways. One does that by saving more. One does that by not spending down. And so a lot of the work that I do and a lot of the things that I think about are creative ways not to spend money too early. The math of it is pretty simple. It costs a lot less to fund a 29-year retirement than a 30-year retirement, or a 28 than a 29. So the less retirement you have to fund, the happier you are. Now, of course, some people are like, oh, I'll be working forever. Like, no, relax. You will be doing different things. Perhaps like you, Amy, and like me, where you take a left turn and you have expertise, but now we own our 168 hours a week. I don't know about you, but I no longer take 8 a.m. appointments with clients, which makes me very happy. So it isn't the work that got me down. That wasn't the grind. It was the schedule that kept me from living my life. And so I would want women to realize that you have more market doublings. So what you put away every 10 years should double in the market. And your job is to let it by not spending down too early.
You make it sound so simple.
It is. It is. We have a tendency to overcomplicate this stuff. And I have to say that there are 2 things. One burns my butt like a flame 3 feet high. Actually, I'm short, so 2 feet high, is that the investment advisory industry is built on the marketing shtick that I can manage your money better than you can, so you should let me manage your money. And I'm not certain that's the case. There are many ways to get it right. There are probably 2 or 3 critical ways to get it wrong, but there are many ways to get it right. And I think that the women I know who have gotten it mostly right, they're like the scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz. They just need the affirmation. They just need to be told, you've been doing it right. Distributing money is a little bit of a trick, but I think it's unfair that the investment advisory community says, I can do better than you. Maybe they can do it differently. Maybe they have access to different products, but I don't know that it's better. Money in the market is going to grow over time as you zoom out. Just giving some confidence to all the rule following women out there.
Yeah. So how do you suggest we right the ship? I mean, if the way that myself and other women that I've talked to feel like we are not where we need to be in terms of what our retirement savings looks like at this moment, because we have a number in our head of where it should be or whatever. So once we determine that it's not there, what's the best approach to correct that?
Great question. And that has to do with who you are. I tell women, and I am a corporate refugee, so my first career was in corporate. Your employer is disloyal. They don't care about you. and they are not going to care about you, you should be thinking about your next thing. And whether that's putting up the consulting shingle before you need it, or the Etsy shop, or whatever, that is critical. The next thing is, I think it's really important for women to understand that they will want to do something. It may be philanthropic, it may be family oriented, unclear. But the vagary is that you don't know if you get to stay in the workforce from 50 to retirement. You don't know if your employer is going to cooperate or you end up in a resource action. You don't know if you'll be called to caregiving for a family member, which very much we are now the triple decker club sandwich generation, being pulled from above and below all the time. You don't know what's going to happen with the economy, because there are certain things that have always been out of our control. I'm going to get nerdy for a second. Two items are sequence of return risk and sequence of inflation risk. And these are two things that we cannot control. The day we retire, are we in a high inflation or a low inflation environment? Or is the market up or down in the year we retire? We don't know that. So I ask women to practice radical flexibility. And of course, the best way to pivot is to have a plan. So again, it starts in your 50s to say, what is the next thing? Give yourself 10 years to grow it. It doesn't need to replace your income today, and it may not. Maybe the shortfall is only $25,000 a year. That's doable with the proverbial Etsy shop. You don't need to replace the entire corporate salary. And without any more detail, I would say put the next thing in place. Indulge yourself, do a vacation, trying something out. See what you're good at and what you like to do and you think you might be able to get paid for, because that's going to take you further. And we're the last generation that has this provincial, parochial notion, I never know which word to use, of a tri-phase life, where we're going to spend 20 years being educated, then we're going to spend 40 years working, then we're going to spend 30 years retired. Retirement didn't even exist early in the 20th century. So the young people they know they're going to be in the workforce for 70 years. They just know it's not going to happen all at once. So young people, I hear them all the time say, oh yeah, we want a sabbatical every 3 years. That sounds like a really good plan, to fund a little bit of a sabbatical every 3 years, because that's going to enable you to spend 50 years in the workforce as opposed to 40 or 30. And our generation is just caught in between, where we've got in our heads this tripart notion, but the reality is we are going to live very long lives. And we want to make sure that we are healthy. We want to make sure that we have skills to follow along. So we need to learn just enough tech. And we want to make sure that we don't do dumb financial things. But to your point, it's not complicated. Doing dumb financial things or avoiding doing dumb financial things is easy. I would say this. You mentioned a number, and that people have a number in their heads. And my question would be, what is that number based on? Is it even based on reality? The critical number to know is what it costs you per month to live happily. And then a model can be created, factors in inflation, et cetera, that says, this is my lifestyle. Yes, I can get to 100 living this way. And the model is either going to say, you need to save more or you need to work a little longer. At no point, to me, I guess at no point as a financial advisor would I say to you, you must suffer. You must suffer. You have worked way too long to suffer for 30 years. So rather than suffer, let's figure out how to finesse the model so that maybe you don't leave the workforce or don't spend down quite so quickly. I have a little shtick I like to do because everybody likes the title. I call it the year of not saving. And the year of not saving is about the notion of living your life in your 50s so that you have the energy to do another 10 years or so at work. And what I say is, if you're prepared to put $20,000 into your 401k at age 55, And let's say there's a corporate match and it's generous. And so $30,000. Well, by the time you're 65 and you want to retire, that is $60,000, right? $30,000 will double in the market to $60,000. And because I've been a good saver, I have, let's say, $750,000 in my 401k by the time I'm 55. That is going to be 1.5 million at 65. So I can retire at 65 and I can take my 30-day European tour, except in this generation, I still have a parent living independently in the house, and that person is now in the age of frailty in their mid 80s. Or I have children who are about to have their own kids, and I am repartnered. I am childless by choice, but I'm repartnered. The universe is laughing at me being a grandma. But having said that, I may not have the flexibility at 66 that I thought I would have. And that's a big change for this generation. So I want to point out that if you delay retiring to age 66 and take the big vacation at 56, so I'm going to take that $20,000 I was going to save and instead use it for vacation at 56, I will have a bigger portfolio. The way it looks at 65 is I have either 60,000 plus 1.5 million, or the next year I will be at 1/10 of another doubling. So I will have another 150,000 at age 66. So would I prefer another 60,000 or another 150,000? The answer is I prefer another 150,000. And people say, wait, one more time. So you're telling me that I can take a vacation at 56 out of what I would have saved at 55 and retire with more money a year later than I can by dutifully saving. It's a little trick of compounding that causes that, but mathematically, it works. It works. And so my message is go live your life in your 50s. There are good reasons for that. In addition to the mom may still be home and she may be frail, and the kids may need you, if you have kids, to deal with their kids and their changes in lives, but also climbing an Alp, walking cobblestones in Eastern Europe, it wants healthier knees and hips. You don't want to give up that good time before you need some parts replacement.
Good point. Yes, that I never would have, it sounds counterintuitive that you could take that kind of a break and that it would pay off. But when you explain it and with the compounded interest, everything, that makes sense. It's funny, you mentioned about just making dumb financial decisions. Okay. So I'll tell you my situation, and my situation is not as unusual as I'm used to think as I've talked to more and more people about it, because for better or for worse, my financial state of how my savings look for the future has not necessarily been a leading guiding force for me as I've made life decisions. So I've pivoted careers several times, sometimes taking the leap when there was nothing guaranteed. I've gone from corporate executive roles into entrepreneurship and back again. And so my latest is that almost 3 years ago now, I left my very lucrative corporate career. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do next. I took a sabbatical. I was 54 at the time I just took a 3-month sabbatical to figure out what I wanted to do. And I've been doing a variety of consulting and freelance projects and podcast production and curriculum development, like a bunch of different things. And I'm loving it. I've spent my 40s and 50s traveling, having a wonderful time, living life to its fullest. But my retirement's just like eking up. I mean, on the plus side, my corporate experience enabled me to pay off all debt. So I was able to wipe out all my credit card debt and everything else. But because my income is now like up and down and not as easily predictable as it used to be when I was getting a paycheck, I do my best to try to, every time I get any kind of uh, income coming in, I'm putting some of it in. But I feel like it's hard at this time. And I'm finding there's a lot of women my age that are leaving corporate America. They're leaving that steady paycheck. They're definitely happier from a fulfillment standpoint, but they may not be saving and doing what we need to be doing at the same rate that they might have done previously.
Maybe we should discuss what that need is, but I have something really important to tell you and every other woman out there.
Okay.
Stop making yourselves wrong. The instinct to make yourself wrong is so great. We already have mothers for that. If I want criticism, I know exactly who to call. Enough. And stop making yourself wrong. You lived your life. You just regaled me with stuff that made me jealous. I wish I did more travel in my 40s. I think that everybody should, in their late 40s and 50s, should figure out how to start 2-week vacations instead of 1-week travel vacations and do the big stuff. And there's a reason for that. And that's that you want to pay for things out of cash flow. You don't want to pay for things out of savings. You don't want to, just like taxes. I talk about, I know this is a little off topic, but I say you do your Roth conversions in your 50s a little at a time, because nobody wants to pay taxes out of savings. And I think it's crazy that financial advisors are like, yeah, the first couple of years of retirement, you're going to do some conversions because it makes mathematical sense. It may make mathematical sense, but it feels awful. I am not devoting my savings to taxes.
Right.
Anyhow, winding back, I think that most of my conversations do start with a box of tissues. And we just need to overcome the financial shame. But the answer, and you have the answer in your hands, is to offset the shortfall, whatever that is. You are willing to work part-time to supplement your income into your 60s and 70s. And you only need to save and, I don't know, torture yourself if you refuse to work. But if you love what you're doing, then why not keep doing it? My work is largely informed by, I think we're all trauma informed. My mom retired to Florida with my dad in her early 60s, and he was 7 years older, so he was ready to retire. And she never wanted to start anything. And my mom is now 97. She lives in independent living. There's nothing wrong with her except that she's 97 and somewhat frail. She is 110% mentally sharp. And I realize that I have such a long runway. Even if I don't get to complete what I start, where's the harm in starting it? Where's the harm in combining a flexible schedule with a big vacation, with hanging with family? Like, where are the rules that say you either work or you don't work? And I'm now remarried. I'm remarried to a man whose office is frequently the front of his F-150. He's an engineer, and it's his mobile command center. He's a former Army colonel. And I've learned a lot about working flexibly from him. But he also he doesn't intend to retire. He intends to keep at it for as long as he can, just exchanging modes. So exchanging on-site work with maybe more desk work, easier on the knees and the hips kind of thing. Where are the rules? And I think that it's only disappointing for the people who insist that you're supposed to retire one day. It sounds like you're having a good time.
Yeah.
And then could you please stop making yourself wrong and enjoy yourself and do what you're doing, which is put away a percentage of everything that comes in, which is how you save.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Great point. And you're absolutely right. So when I'm not beating myself up over that, I'm very happy with what I'm doing. I'm living a nomadic lifestyle. I'm pursuing creative interests.
Sounds awesome.
It's been great.
It sounds awesome. And this is a real challenge, is women making ourselves wrong. And I think some of it has to do with the fact that only 16% of the cohort has financial education. But I also think that there's a lot of that gaslighting that goes on in investment advisory that says, we know something that you don't know.
Mhm.
Um, yep, call them BS on that. Call them
Right.
BS on that.
It's interesting you mentioned about financial education because I am I have been intimidated by that. Like I don't consider myself financially well educated and have dipped my toe in here and there to become better educated. And I don't know why because I'm good at math. Like if math was a good subject, I don't know what it is. It could be a
I,
little bit of
I think it's intimidating, and
yeah.
we tend to put off things that are not easy. But
Mhm.
I will tell you that if you wanted to become a guru of market investments, you would have. And if
Right.
it doesn't interest you,
Mhm.
fine. What's in the market is such a small part of having a financial plan. Having a financial plan is about understanding your own values and what you want to spend and when you want to spend it and when you want to live your life. It is about that longevity planning aspect. Invest in your health, invest in your family and your values. Think about where you're going to live as you age, because eventually the stairs are going to be ugly. Eventually, if you're short like me, you're going to want to trade in that over the stovetop microwave for a drawer microwave. That's all part of planning.
Right.
And of course, making sure you have the right beneficiaries, making sure. And I think that it's a mistake to associate products, financial products, with the plan. And most women do a wonderful job with the plan. It's just the financial products that they don't, they're just not interested in. And there are plenty of women who are, but I don't buy that you have to become a market guru. And I'm working on a manuscript. So plug for the manuscript about 10 lessons that you can enact in your 50s that if you do this, you will be in a very good place for the next 50. And none of them, with the exception of the nominal math in the year of not saving, none of them are investment focused. They're just not. That's not, they are, dare I say it, they are a little bit about taxes. You have to acknowledge that, but they're practical things that you can do that are going to leave you in a good place,
Mm.
and they're not painful, and they don't involve understanding the stock market.
When are you publishing?
As soon as I can.
You're gonna have to let us know.
Absolutely.
That sounds
Absolutely.
perfect. So tell us about Madrina Molly. I just discovered it and it looks like it's an amazing way to serve.
A way to serve is a great way to put it. So I'm building out on Substack, really, subscription on Substack. And what I find is that many women need just enough information and not a lot more. So they either can't or don't want to transfer their assets to you to manage. Maybe they even like their investment advisor. They just want a woman CFP to give them some critical knowledge.
Mm.
Maybe women don't own the financial relationship and they're partnered, and the partner has the relationship with the financial advisor. They may not even particularly like them, but you have your own money. You should have your own advice. Maybe these are women who, either for lack of oodles and oodles of money or because their money is tied up in a corporate 401k, maybe they don't fit the ideal client profile of a woman CFP, and using a quality advisor would be financially difficult. For all of those reasons, I am delivering a subscription that is just enough questions and answers about financial planning and longevity planning for women. And this is my attempt to fill the gap. We are over 100,000 shy in CFPs. We do not have enough advisors, men and women, to service the population. And so this is my way of giving good advice to people who want to learn. Simple as that. I'm going to say something impolitic. As part of the research for my book, I pulled half a dozen retirement books, many written by known entities.
Mhm.
And it infuriates me that they deliver bad advice. Like they deliver inappropriate financial planning advice.
Oof.
I'll give you an example. Famous person X says you should never carry a mortgage into retirement and you should pay off your mortgage with your Roth IRA because that's tax-free. And that's crazy because your Roth money is the money you use last because it's tax-free forever. So you want it to grow the largest and be the most aggressive. So I help people with the chess pieces, but it is infuriating to me how much bad advice there is out there in this sort of lowest common denominator way.
Yeah.
The finfluencer effect.
So you're sifting through some of that noise, vetting out some of what's out there. Because if somebody doesn't feel confident or they're not as financially educated, it's hard to discern.
It is very hard to discern. And if famous person says I must do this, then I guess this is the thing to do. And it's
Right.
absolutely not the thing to do.
That's interesting. And before we wrap up today, any other last minute thoughts or recommendations that you want to make sure my listeners walk away with?
I hope that I have brightened their prospects and perspective. There's a lot more runway than we think, and we should be planning to do really interesting things with this whole second 50 concept.
Yeah.
And that starts now. I think the only one of those few wrong things, like if you wait until you're retired to plan for retirement, yes, that would be one of the dumb things.
Thank you, Sherry. It's been a pleasure. I feel lighter and brighter. So
Excellent. The pleasure is mine.
And how can people find you? What's the best way to connect with you?
You can find me at madrinamolly.com or sherryfinkelmurphy.com. Needless to say, Madrina Molly is a lot easier.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me for today's episode of the Blueprint Breakers podcast, Money Moves for Modern Midlife Women. And thank you to my guest, Sherry Finkel Murphy. Please check her out at madrinamolly.com. That's MADRINA Molly.com. And if you've enjoyed this episode, remember to rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends. Have a wonderful week. Keep on breaking those blueprints and rewriting your own.